Hey everybody, this is Josh Ronquist here for Heavy Debriefings, and before we get into the list proper, I just wanted to go over a couple things that you may have noticed are a little different from the January 2023 list. First of all, you may have noticed that I look a little more presentable, the camera looks a little bit better, I look a little more presentable, still the same ugly mug, but what are you going to do about that? But I got a brand new webcam. And I've been slowly but surely upgrading things to try to look the best that I possibly can, not just for audio, but for video as well. So with a new webcam, I've been able to figure a lot of stuff out. And along with that, I have text going along with my videos now, especially when I'm going over top 10 lists and my best albums of the year when that comes at the end of the year. So from going on forward, you will see what you see on the bottom below in some green font. And I will also be adding the For Fans Of section, which if anyone knows my written material, you know what that's all about. And if you don't, you'll figure it out pretty quickly. So let's get into the list proper. The top 10 albums of February 2023. First up, I have the band Hail the Void with Memento Mori. And this is the first time I've actually checked out this band, and I gotta say I'm pretty blown away from what I hear. There's a lot of great moments of doom metal going on here, there's a lot of great moments of stoner metal going on, but the one thing that kept me coming back to this album, even though I am a big doom fan and kinda so-so on stoner, is the fact that the vocals, the vibe, the production, everything about it, even though it's not the same as the band, it reminds me so much of the band Acid Bath, especially in the vocals. Like, there's a lot of vibrato that's going on there that if you enjoy Dax Riggs the way that I do, and for anyone who doesn't know, that was my third ever interview. Yeah, I really loved everything that happened with this album. I love the song structures. The production feels so good for everything that's going on here. Even though, again, I'm not too big on the stoner side of doom metal, I much prefer the funeral doom side and the death doom side. I can occasionally enjoy the stoner side, and this is a fantastic example of that. And if you don't exactly know what I mean by the stoner side, I guess the best way to describe it would be Black Sabbath. But all of that said, if you're looking for something in this style, if you enjoy Acid Bath, or if you just want to take a plunge on a new album of something that's a little bit different, I highly recommend checking out Hail the Void. Coming up next, I have the band Host with their debut album, 9. And you would think that with a name like this might be their 9th album, but with it being their first, it actually does make a lot of sense once you dive deeper into the band. This is Gregor McIntosh and Nick Holmes being able to explore what made the middle era of Paradise Lost so fun. I know it's kind of controversial depending on who you ask, because there's some people who only enjoy the doom side of Paradise Lost, there's some people who only enjoy the gothic metal side of Paradise Lost, and then there are those people who enjoy the middle era. There are the people who enjoy the more dancey rave moments. There are the people who enjoy the gothic overtones, a little more alternative rock, pop rock, gothic rock. It's not a metal album, really, which is so shocking considering how heavy Paradise Lost have gotten over the last few albums, and especially when you look at the side projects of both Gregor and Nick, with Bloodbath and Strigoi and Valenfire, which sadly is no more, but Strigoi is picking up that flag pretty well. It's really refreshing to hear them go back to an era that is so severely underrated. And when you think of albums like Icon, Host, which of course is where the band got the name from, Believe in Nothing, there's so many great albums a part of this era that don't really get represented, and this is a nice way to show off that side, and if the band ever does play live, they'll be able to show off that side of the band again, which I'm very happy about. All of that considered, this has Album of the Year material written all over for me. I love the middle era of Paradise Lost so much, and I mean, I love it as much as I love Paradise Lost in general, and I really should do a backwards marathon on Paradise Lost. That'll probably happen at some point. But getting back to this, it feels like a modern update to all of the electronic sides, the alternative sides, the gothic sides, that a lot of people may only know Paradise Lost for. I mean, if you only enjoy the clean vocal Paradise Lost, this is the album for you. And if you don't really like the electronics, I still think that you should give it a chance. I mean, yes, it's dancey, it feels like you're in the midst of a late 80s, early 90s rave, which is not really a bad thing. It's a departure, in a sense, from what all of them have been doing over the last few years, but it's something that feels like it was really needed. And to close out the album, the fact that they cover a flock of seagulls with Iran, it's probably the darkest version of that song I've ever heard. I mean, it still keeps in tone with the rest of the album for sure, but it's so strange to be able to hear something like this, and by strange, I mean it's overwhelmingly awesome to see what they did with that, and I really hope they keep going with this. I mean, I really want a new Paradise Lost album after this. I hope one comes out by the end of the year, or in 2024, depending on whatever happens. But, you know, if they can do this one after the other, like work on Paradise Lost, work on Host, work on Paradise Lost, work on Host, and be able to fit in the rest of their work and the other bands that they're a part of, I couldn't ask for more. And I think you should check this out if this sounds like it could be up your alley. Next up, we have Insomnium with NO 1696. I guess you could say, second concept album from Insomnium. Winter's Gate technically counts as the first one, but that is also one song. So it's a mixed bag. Let's just call it the second concept album. It pretty much is anyways. But unlike Winter's Gate, this is the most fleshed out, most expansive, most varied, and I dare say the best Insomnium release to date. I say this because it captures every side of Insomnium perfectly. They're able to expand their sound into more black metal and doom metal, a little bit poppier moments in just the right places, and some of the most epic metal sounds that they've ever been able to accomplish. They've been able to weave together a fantastic horror story that I was fortunate enough to be able to get the full-on 40-plus page booklet on this release that basically goes over the entire story, even the bonus tracks that unfortunately are not a part of the full release, but if you get to check out the bonus tracks, they really do help out the story. But with that story, I mean, there's a lot of twists and turns that you don't see coming, and one big twist that really, as a horror fan, I truly appreciate what they were going for, and I thought it was a great way to go about things. Of course, you got a song like White Christ, which features Rotting Christ, which is so awesome to see. I mean, they've always been interconnected together, and especially in the early days, you hear some Rotting Christ sound in Insomnium tones, although they've been able to expand their sound much more. And the song The Rivers might be their greatest song they've ever written. And if you hear it just by itself, it may not have the same impact, but if you get to hear the full-on album and you get to that final track, just utter perfection. It's melodic death metal, and Insomnium is one of the best to do it, and it helps that the best melodic death metal really does come from Finland. And while I enjoy every single Insomnium album, and there isn't one that I would even say is even close to bad or mediocre, or even okay, they're all great, grand, and wonderful. This is the cream that rises to the top. And this is another album that I think is going to rank very high on my best albums of the year. This is magnum opus Insomnium. And if you want to hear some of the best melodic death metal you're ever going to hear in 2023, I highly recommend checking out this album, which came out as of the day I'm releasing this, today. You don't have an excuse. Go check it out. Go. Next up is my favorite current old school death metal band, Memoriam, with their brand new album, Rise to Power. And with this album, and with every Memoriam album to date, the music is straight up old school death metal. It never really varies from that. I mean, you're not going to get any black metal moments. It doesn't go into any grindcore or grindgore moments. It doesn't get poppy. It doesn't chase trends. It's just classic old school death metal. And for those that have been nitpicking this album, I mean, of course there's going to be some bolt thrower influence. Considering who's a part of the band, that's just going to happen naturally, no matter what band you're in. You're not going to be able to escape that in some way, shape, or form. It's a part of you. but I don't hear it as a continuation of Bolt Thrower. I don't hear it as the band that could have been in Bolt Thrower. It's Memoriam. And the main way you can tell the difference in this is the lyrical content, which, if you can tell in the For Fans Of section below, it does feature on a lot of modern social issues that continue on. Even though, like, the first track on the album does talk about World War II, it is still very relevant here in 2023 and 2022 when it was written because of the rise of anti-Semitism that's going on in the world. And throughout the album, you see a lot of injustice that's being sung about through Carl and just all of the horrible atrocities that are going on in the world. And for someone like myself who is very aware of all of these things, that want that change for the world, who wants to see the world become a better place, this is the kind of album where I can appreciate my love of old school death metal, which is my favorite kind of death metal. I mean, of course you got the melodic death metal and progressive death metal, but for like what most people consider death metal, it's my favorite. And when you're able to tackle a lot of things that have been going on in the world like they have on the previous albums, I love it. It's a continuation of Memoriam. I mean, if you've enjoyed what they've done in the past, this is a continuation of that, and I wouldn't need anything more than that. And if this is your first Memoriam album, I think this is a fantastic start to be able to go on and be able to go in backwards order, because you have a lot of great music to be able to check out. And yeah, if you just want that old school death metal feel with modern tinge about the atrocities of the modern world, Memoriam and Rise to Power is the album for you. Coming up next, I have the band No Point in Living, which, if you've seen what I've been going through lately, yeah, it's a pretty apt name. With the album Beautiful Tragedy, and since 2017, this is the 34th album from this band, and it's not even all of their work, and that is mind-blowing. Just 34 LPs already since 2017. Prolific doesn't even begin to describe it. But on this album with Beautiful Tragedy, no, it is not an In This Moment cover album. It is a full-on original LP of more progressive side of depressive suicidal black metal. I hear moments of a little more genty stuff going on. I hear moments of Gojira, especially. There's a little bit of Meshuggah going on in there as well too, but it is still layered and thickened in that DSBM movement, which really has been hitting hard for me lately, especially over the last few years. And this is possibly some of the best work that the band has done to date, and going off of the track record, I mean, again, 34 albums since 2017, I'm pretty sure this isn't going to be the only album in 2023. I would be shocked if there's no more releases from the band this year. But this is a good one. I mean, I don't think I could ever do a backwards marathon on No Point in Living because 34 albums is just preposterous. But I really thoroughly enjoy everything that's going on with Beautiful Tragedy. And if you want kind of a starter album, like, say you're like me and you like progressive music, but you also like depressive suicidal black metal, you want to hear those two merging together in what could be better production, but given the genre and the style, it does fit perfect. This is an album worth checking out. I mean, it hits all of those dark feelings that you love about DSBM, but the music is on a different level than what you would normally hear in the genre. And the production is actually much better than a lot of bands that you would hear in the genre. Hopefully the production continues to keep growing as the band gets going, and I'm excited to see what else they're going to be doing in 2023 alone, let alone the years to come. Next, I have the sophomore album from the Portuguese funeral death doom band Oak with Disintegrate. And this is another toss-up one, like, does this really count? Which you're also going to be seeing at the end of this list as well, because this is one song. It is almost 45 minutes, but it is album length. And for Death Doom, sometimes that's an EP. But in all seriousness, I think this counts as a full LP because of the time length, because of the way it's being marketed. It's just that good of a song that I think it's worth talking about. The band captures so much of the atmospheric stuff that you would hear in atmospheric black metal. Of course, Funeral Doom is their bread and butter. Death Doom in all of the right moments. The production is stellar. The songwriting, I understand why people can't really listen to a song that's 3/4 of an hour. I totally understand. But for those of you that love dark, depressing music such as I, this is an album that satisfies all the moods that you're going for. It gets super heavy, it gets mellow in the right moments, great crushing drums, lyrical content that just hits you so hard. There's so much to love about this album, and it only gets better with subsequent listens. And, I'd say if you like stuff from like Mournful Congregation, or if you are one of the people that latched on the Bell Witch with Mirror Reaper, or if you just want to be able to check out something new in the Death Doom and Funeral Doom territories, this is an album worth checking out, and easily one of the best songs of 2023 so far, and will probably be one of my favorite songs of 2023. And of course, albums of 2023, but we'll see how the momentum goes. Next up, we have the sophomore album from Seizure Power, a supergroup that features members of Autopsy and Hail of Bullets. This is a fantastic album, and this is Tomorrow. Sorry for the bad pun. But no, seriously, this is a great step forward for the band. I mean, it's been a few years since the last album, but there's so much to love about this album as well. It continues on with what they do so well, talking about what's going on in the world currently, and it has some great death metal moments. Of course, they focus a little bit more on the thrash moments, and I would dare say even in a little more saucier moments, you hear a little bit of punk and crossover thrash going on. Whether that was intentional or not, at least I hear it. I'd say this is a good counterbalance to Memoriam, which I talked about earlier, because this is a kind of album that talks about what's going on in the world right now, a little bit of a different take on it, same overall idea, but musically done in a different way. Where, again, Memoriam's all that old school death metal sound, this is more of the pure death metal, more of like the Autopsy side of Death Doom, and of course that thrash, punk, and crossover, which I was talking about as well. And if that sounds like something that's up your alley, and if you want to see what some amazing guys are being able to put out in Seizure Power, check out This Is Tomorrow. But it is out now, so go check it out now. Next up is the other collection that it's kind of hard to describe. Because is it 2 albums? Is it 2 separations? Were these recorded to be 2 different albums? Were they recorded and realized, hey, this is going to take up too much room to fit on the one CD, so let's make it a double release? There's so many different ways that you can look at this, but I decided to include them together from the band Ulthar, Anthronomicon, and Helionomicon. Let's talk about the former first, which is more of the traditional sound of what Ulthar has been about up to this date. Blackened death metal. And I really truly appreciate what they go for, because there's some great avant-garde moments going on here, there's some great atmosphere going on through all of it. It's pummeling, it's crushing, it's brutal, and it's got some great sense of melodies that you don't really see coming, and it's just an enjoyable listen from start to finish. A rough listen, because it's got a lot of twists and turns that you don't necessarily see coming, but they're rewarding ones if you enjoy that kind of stuff. And for Helionomicon, which features the title tracks of Anthronomicon and Helionomicon, so again, what is it? This is just 2 songs, and it focuses a little bit more on the doomy side. I mean, obviously, of course, it still contains the blackened death metal, lots of great atmosphere, but it's a bit different as well. I mean, if you took these 2 songs out, you could still have Anthronomicon going on. My apologies, I just see that I made a typo. They're long words. But, yeah, if you like more of the grand scale black and death metal, doom metal, death doom, funeral doom, atmospheric black metal, Helionomicon may be up your alley as well, because it's a lot moodier, there's a lot more grand movements that happen along with it, and for some people it's just going to be more up their style. So on this release, they give you both sides. The darker, more brutal side, and the more sad, a little bit evil tinge side. And I recommend checking out both. And probably check them out in that order, but listen to them together. Anthronomicon and Helionomicon by Ulthar. Up next, I have the band Wilrus with Beherte. At least, that's how I learned how to pronounce it. And this album is really for people who enjoy the early to mid era of Ulcess. Not necessarily when they went like full on post-rock, but like when they still had the black metal tinges to them, which thankfully they started incorporating back on the last couple albums. But when they weren't just focusing on post-rock and they had that great blend of black metal, black gaze, this is an album I think you would truly appreciate. But unlike Ulcess, this is a very depressing album. Like, Ulcess is meant to be like uplifting, where you listen to it and you can kind of feel better in your soul. Beherte is the kind of album where you listen to it, you will start to feel sadder. It's beautiful. It's very gorgeous. It's not the best production in the world, but I can easily look past that with the song quality that's going on, and even though I don't speak the native language, I can hear what's going on in the lyrics and the vocal melodies that's going on, and of course the musical melodies and harmonies that are going on, and they hit those right tinges in my heart to just make me feel sad. And when music can make you feel something other than hating the music that you're listening to, I think that's a positive. And I've always been a fan of saying that the more depressing music that you listen to, it really is uplifting, because that is a shared experience, unlike pop music, which you can feel very depressed by if you don't feel that way. Of course, that are words I altered from the man himself, Steven Wilson, but the statement is still very true. Dark music is cathartic, and this album from Wilrus is a great example of that. Again, it's beautiful. If you enjoy black gaze, you're going to find something to appreciate here, but it is dark, and when you listen to it, you're going to feel something. You're going to feel a little sad, and like me, you might even weep, just a little bit, but those tears are worth it. And there we go, folks, my top 10 albums of February 2023. If there's anything that you felt I missed, or if you just want to give me crap for the music that I personally enjoyed this year, comment down below. I will say that February was a very, very hard month for me, and it's still very trying right now. You can look at my past update video from just a few days ago to understand everything that's going on business-wise, mentally, physically, and with family issues going on as well. I haven't been able to enjoy as much music as I've wanted to, but I'm sure I missed some good stuff, and I know I'll hopefully be able to check that out in the months to come before I put together my top 100 of 2023. But if you like this video, of course, like, comment, share, subscribe, notification bell, all of that good stuff if you actually enjoyed it. And if nothing else, just like leave a comment if you enjoyed it as well. Like, I got one a couple days ago that really put me in such good spirits, and it was just simple saying, hey, I enjoy the channel. You do interesting takes. That just made me feel so good. And maybe you enjoy my takes, maybe you think my takes suck. Regardless, I hope you keep checking out the videos, and I hope you look forward to the top 10 albums of March 2023, as I've checked out a lot of albums from March 2023 already, and it is a stacked month. It's going to be a hard month for me to narrow it down to 10. I can tell you that. And until my next video, be it an interview, a review, a top 10 list, backwards marathon, or any other kind of video I decide to put up here on the Heavy Debriefings YouTube channel. This is Josh Runquist saying, see ya.